Hello and welcome everybody to Ink and Paint. We are excited to bring you part two of our March Madness tournament where we are talking about the most popular, well, actually, we're kind of going through our popularity, I guess, of the most, all of the different female characters in Disney movies and other entertainment offerings, TV shows. So we've got a bracket for you, which we've dropped the link to the bracket in chat so that everybody can play along. I will pull it up and show you guys. So we're starting round two tonight. We did round one last week, so we're down to 32, and we'll go through those matchups tonight with our illustrious panel. I am joined tonight by my co-host Ashley Jasmine.
Hey.
And we have Desi joining us again, coming back for another week of fierce competition in the brackets. And
Good
we've got
evening from
Shannon
Tampa Bay.
Hey y'all, my first March Madness, so I'm super excited.
This is actually the first time I have also gotten to do a real March Madness that was not Park Center, then analyzing the March Madness tournament on News Tonight. Yes, although apparently I am going to be a participant in this year's March Madness on News Tonight. Yeah, I know. I feel like it's a huge honor.
Too.
I'm not on this week. I think Lauren is starting off for me, and then I'll be on the next 2 weeks. So
I always enjoyed it, so I hope you have fun. That's the biggest thing that I miss since I'm not local, is not being able to do like March Madness.
Yeah, it's fun, and I'm really excited to be on sort of the other end of the competition this year, the bracket this year.
Not so easy when you have to make the decisions.
I know, right? I'm like so excited to watch Park Center and see how they like trash my decisions.
I don't know
This is the only one who will dare challenge
this.
Tom, and that might actually be possible. I don't know, Desi, you're on too, right? You'll challenge Tom when he's
Did you have a hand in seeding this bracket?
I did not.
Because some of them don't make sense to me.
I think Tom tends to see things kind of single-handedly, so yeah, it's March Madness. It is by far not the only thing that's going to happen on March Madness on News Tonight that's not going to make sense. But in a bracket that is going to make complete sense, I promise you all, this bracket is going to make complete sense tonight on this show.
Because it totally did last week.
Yep. I have some interesting thoughts about what happened last week. Do we want to do a recap, or do we kind of want to recap as we go through the matchups? What do you think, Ashley?
I kind of feel like maybe you should put on your Park Center hat and let us know how we did. Because I'm very curious. I think the audience is probably too.
Okay. So one of my favorite parts about watching the show last week was during the matchup that was Alice versus Wendy from Peter Pan. Which, I'm sorry, Wendy swept that competition. I'm sorry. But someone in chat said Jill is going to have their heads for this. And then it all ends up with their heads. And I was like, wow, okay, my reputation absolutely precedes me, because I was just like, I'm sitting there like, are you kidding me? Alice didn't get a single vote? What?
But I feel like we made very valid points, because you definitely more, but we share a love of Alice and Mary Blair. But
just because you made valid points doesn't mean you're right. Setting a good tone for the upcoming debates. The other thing I really noticed, so there weren't a ton that I disagreed with. There were some that were really close, I thought. I was really excited to see the Anna and Elsa matchups, like being ties that the chat had to break, because So like I think I was probably, I might be in the hot take minority on this one, but I'm not a Frozen fan, and I'm not a Frozen fan just like in large part because of the oversaturation. Like when I went to the park the other day to see the new stage show at the castle, and the first like they bring out like three different IPs worth of characters, and they start with Tiana and Naveen, and then which I was really excited to see Lewis like as a walk around character. I thought that was super cool. And then they bring out Rapunzel and Flynn, and everybody's like, yay. And then the final group they bring out is Anna and Elsa, and people just lost their minds. And it was just like, it was such a stark contrast that like,
years.
I know it's been years. It's far from the first time you've seen Anna and Elsa in the parks or on the castle stage, and yet people still lost their minds. And I just like, I don't understand.
And Frozen 2 was overrated.
Yes.
I didn't like Frozen 2. Sorry.
Me neither.
But the other things like,
but other than that,
yeah, I thought you guys made some really good choices. I thought there were some tough choices, like Rey versus Leia. Like that was a really hard choice to make, and like I get matching them up against each other because eventually, there can be only one. But some tough choices. And the other thing I thought about as I was listening to the brackets, and I wrote this down, was it's really interesting that in all of the Toy Story movies, there are like no really likable female characters. Like Jessie and Bo Peep both lost, and like rightly so. I didn't disagree with those arguments.
And Barbie didn't even make the cut.
Nope.
Why would Barbie
Which
make
in hindsight, I might would have voted for Barbie, given who she may have been up against, because I do actually enjoy her, like in a weird comic relief kind of way.
But even just like I don't hate Jessie. I love Jessie as an in-park character. I had like the best meet and greet I've ever had with Jessie in the park. But like the actual character in Toy Story is kind of annoying, and like and then all the like pulling at your heartstrings with the whole Sarah McLachlan thing, like all of that. But I was just like, wow, like there were 4 Toy Story movies, and I don't really like a single like female character in any of them. So I thought that was like, that was an interesting realization I came to. And then like, I was just laughing at, all of the references to things like how many registers does the character have, just some of the, but like too, because we're talking and maybe it's no different that we're talking about like film and TV characters as opposed to something in the parks, like an attraction or whatever. But the idea of like how tied it is to our own nostalgia, and then B, how sort of important or foundational it was to like the history of Disney animation. So like the argument about Snow White was like she was the OG. Yeah, she is the OG in terms of a princess or any female lead character or any lead character in a Disney animated film. And like I think that speaks a lot, like, so that whole idea which we go through every March Madness, which is like, what is your criteria for voting? And like sometimes that can shift, because I think at the end of the day with characters and with a lot of this stuff, we're so tied to our own feelings about it, and those feelings aren't always rational, because I don't know, in my experience, feelings are not always rational, or rarely rational.
What are you talking about? March Madness is always so rational.
Plectu. One word for you. Plectu.
Well thought out.
Yeah.
Good reasoning. All the things.
So, and I was very interested. There were some definite references back to our arguments on the marathon show at Thanksgiving about what makes a good Disney princess, and arguments about Ariel and Belle and things like that, which I have a feeling will get somewhat revisited in the course of our bracket here as well. But yeah, I think the nice thing about this bracket is it gives more room for your own feelings about the character to play a role. Like, for as much as I might be annoyed with Belle, like I loved that film, and it played a huge role in my teenage years as like something that was a touchstone for me. So like the rational analysis of Belle as a character / female role model versus like how much I like the movie are not necessarily aligned. And I think this is a place where you get to play around with that a little bit. So I'm excited.
That's why I voted based on how many registers she had at her restaurant.
I think Belle probably, yeah. I mean, if you just want, or even if you vote by like revenue, like Be Our Guest is so expensive. Like it's one of the most expensive restaurants in Disney. So you could argue that like Belle makes more money than a lot of these other characters. So probably in more ways, I'm sure between merchandising and like royalties and all of that stuff, Belle probably rakes in quite a pretty penny for the Walt Disney Company. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So that is my recap, but it was a great show. I loved it. I laughed so many times, and I was excited to see, like, despite the fact that there were a handful of characters that I love that lost out in the first round, I think we've got a lot of good matchups coming up. So I'm excited to dive in and start talking through round 2 of this bracket. So we have the bracket available. You can it's in the chat for everyone to be able to open up. It's online, so you can just take a look and follow along with us if that makes it easier for you. But we'll start off with our first matchup, which is Cinderella versus Daisy. So we've got Cinderella, iconic Mark Davis illustration here of the dress, which who doesn't love that? And then we've got good old Daisy Duck, Fab Five adjacent, as the terminology goes.
This is a tough one.
Yeah.
I agree.
I mean, when you first think about it, you're like, this shouldn't be difficult at all. But it actually kind of is. Like, again, Daisy's Fab Five adjacent, but then Cinderella is Cinderella. Like, even though she's not my favorite.
Like, she's got a castle at the parks.
Yeah. I mean, she's got her castle. She was Walt's favorite. You know, the beautiful animation from the transformation scene.
She left her shoe behind.
I mean, that's fair.
I don't think Daisy.
So that's actually
behind.
That's actually
but Daisy's
an
also
argument that makes
mean.
me want to vote for her.
For Cindy?
I'm leaning towards Cinderella only because I think Daisy's mean.
It's true though. I think it frustrates me that I think she's portrayed very kind of as shallow and kind of like cruel and vindictive in a lot of the cartoons, and that bothers me because I don't think that's fair.
But that wasn't always the case though. Like I think back to like some of the old shorts and cartoons, like especially the there was one of the Christmas ones, like the Groundhog Day Christmas. I forget what the actual name of the short is.
Oh, the Mickey's Twice Upon a Christmas.
Yeah. Yeah, and they have Huey, Dewey, and Louie, and she comes over. She was really sweet to them, and you know, back in the day, she would kind of like take up for them for the nephews when Donald was being Donald. But yeah, I mean, I feel like with a lot of the characters lately, they've boiled it down to a very basic, this is what they are, and it's not a great portrayal.
Yeah, like especially in the new Mickey shorts, she's not. And I mean, neither is Goofy, for example. Like Goofy's kind of portrayed
Goofy looks like a scary hobo.
Goofy's
like, can we just say it? He's a scary, creepy hobo, and I don't know any child that would want to meet that version of Goofy.
He gives me
they saw her in the park. Right. I don't know. I'm torn, but I'm giving the edge to Cindy probably only because of that piece of animation where where her dress transformed with Fairy Godmother.
Yeah, it was my favorite piece of animation.
Mm-hmm. I wish I had a picture of it. So I was recently in New York at the Met, and the Met is doing an exhibit of Disney art right now. It's some Disney art, like animated film art, and then a bunch of other stuff, and like period pieces of like furniture and pottery and ceramics and things that are kind of like show the inspiration of that time period into the Disney films. Like there's a lot from Beauty and the Beast and Sleeping Beauty. But there is one whole wall in the Met that is, I think, 30 framed drawings that Mark Davis did of the entire transformation scene of like Cinderella as she like kind of like lifts her arms and like the dress transforms. And it's like just being able to see that, and they're all framed on this wall, was like the most amazing thing. And it made me feel so like in the presence of Disney greatness to see that those animation scenes.
That's
and
so
just
cool.
Yeah, it was really awesome. If you are in the New York area, I would strongly recommend going to the Met. Like there's so much cool Disney history in that exhibit that just blew me away. So, all right.
Well,
my vote, I think I have to go with Cinderella too. I feel like for me, she's not my favorite, but there's something about her that I just, I feel like she's so much more tied to the parks than Daisy is. And that's part of, that's sort of my first Disney love is the parks more so than the films. So Cindy plays such a big part in that.
Shannon?
Yeah, I'm going Daisy on this one because, Daisy has a little bit of an edge because she needs to hold it together for her and Donald. Donald is a cranky man. He's a cranky duck. And someone needs to be that strong female to keep him in line. And Cinderella left her shoe behind, which annoys me. You don't leave behind your fancy dancy shoes. You go back and get it, even if you're dressed as
she was gonna change. She couldn't go back and get it.
So then she'd show her true colors. No, I go Daisy. I'm over Cindy.
Fair. Desi?
Oh, I thought I already said Cindy.
Did you? You're Cindy too?
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's 3-1 with Cindy as our winner. Our next matchup is Meg from Hercules versus Danielle. And so here's one where I confess that I didn't actually know. So there's Meg. I didn't actually know who Danielle was. I was like, wait, who are we talking about here? And then I realized it was Drew Barrymore from Ever After.
Oh, yeah.
Which, like, I'm a little too old for Ever After. So, like, this didn't... I know this movie was, like, so huge. Foundational for a lot of women who are a little bit younger than me, but I think I kind of missed the boat on this one. So for that reason, and because I love Hercules, and I can argue why Megara is a incredibly flawed character, but for me personally, just in terms of who I like, I have to go with Meg on this one.
Yeah, I'm going Meg too. Because I like how we all kind of have that part of us that maybe isn't so nice sometimes, or maybe you go down the wrong path in life or make the wrong decision, and she rights her wrongs. So I think that's a bit of a hero story in and of itself.
Maybe you do stupid things for boys sometimes.
Yeah,
I've never done that. Never once in my life have I ever done that.
I have to go with Danielle. I just feel like she is such a strong character. And I mean, her best friend is Leonardo da Vinci, so it doesn't get much cooler than that.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
She saves the prince.
She does, and she does have a lot of great moments. And that movie was definitely like one of the ones that was, it seemed like it was always on some channel in like the early 2000s, whether it was like MTV or TBS or something. It was always on TV on the weekends, and I loved it. But Meg is she's flawed. She's absolutely flawed, but she's just such a funny, great, like unexpected character. And I think I even said it last week, but one of my favorite lines in any Disney movie is, "I'm a damsel, I'm in distress, I think I can handle this." And like, she's just clearly she has nothing under control, but she's not going to admit that or accept help. And it was just fantastic. And I love it. And I love her sass so much that I have to vote for Meg.
I do love Meg too. I just didn't want Danielle to go with a clean sweep here.
That's fair.
Fair. She deserves credit. It is a delightful movie. And as somebody pointed out in the chat, if Danielle actually won this bracket, next week would basically be a Cinderella, or next round would basically be a Cinderella face-off between Cinderella and Danielle. So we've maybe avoided what is like an inevitable I don't know how you could ever, if that was the matchup, Cinderella versus Danielle, I don't think there's any way you could really vote for Danielle.
How do you
vote for the
honestly though, I think
versus,
in that case
like,
I would have voted for Danielle over OG Cinderella.
Really interesting.
But now the world may never know.
Never know.
All right, our next matchup is dun dun dun
dun dun dun.
Death match, Frozen death match.
No one cares. No.
I mean, if I am no one, yes. This is tough. Like I don't have a lot of love for either.
I think this is pretty easy.
Well, really?
What do you think?
Because I feel like one of them like put her life on the line for her sister, but she's also the same one who wanted to marry a guy she just met the same day, and then was like, oh no, this guy I've known for 2 days, he's definitely the one.
Yeah. I mean, regardless, the fact that Anna annoys me so much makes me have to choose Elsa. Although I know they both have their positives and negatives, but I think I tend to be a little more pessimistic. I know that's probably terrible to admit, but I have a little bit of Elsa in me. Anna is just too trusting, too head in the clouds. Don't like her. She's got to go.
So I use Elsa in my everyday terminology when, like, I'm starting to get worked up about something at work. And then I say, you know what? I'm going to Elsa this. Just going to let it go.
Yep.
I mean, it's not like we don't all use that phrase quite a bit, and it's hard to not think of Frozen whenever you do.
I may or may not, on a semi-regular basis, when my husband is getting worked up over something or keeps repeating himself, start playing Let It Go on my phone or Alexa or whatever is in the vicinity of me, because it annoys him, and that is hilarious to me.
I was going to say, does that make him crazy?
Yes.
I feel like if someone did that to me, it would also make me crazy.
But I don't know. Anna, however you want to say it, she definitely has her flaws. Absolutely, she does. She's very naive. She's very trusting. But I don't know. Maybe it's just the big sister in me. But I kind of lay a lot of that at Elsa's feet. Like, I know she went through a lot with losing her parents, but Anna also went through a lot and then also lost her big sister, who, kind of, while also going through a lot, should have been there for her little sister, or at least, and for the kingdom and for everybody. And I said it a lot last week, but her solution to freezing the entire kingdom when she had to come apart was to run away. That's not really great reaction. I understand it was an accident, but you still froze everything and then just ran away.
I don't think she knew that she did.
You just, no, I think she did, because that's why she ran away. She, started freezing everything in the ballroom. She may not have realized that she everything.
Yeah.
But even when still, your whole solution is just to run away and be like, F it. It doesn't matter. I have a whole kingdom and everything, and my little sister is about to run off with the prince that she literally just met. But it's fine. I'm just going to go build myself an ice castle and just not deal with anything.
But no one was going to accept her.
She didn't know that. She didn't even give him a chance to process the fact that she just froze things, like, and nobody knew that she could do it. So I don't.
So does that mean you're going with Anna?
I'm going
Is
with
that your vote?
Anna. I feel
Alright.
they both annoy me, but Elsa annoys me more, quite frankly. And not just for the song.
So I feel like, in light of all this, because in all of this description, what I've maybe come to realize is that out of the two of them, I am probably more like Elsa than Anna. That's probably actually not really surprising to anyone who knows me. So I think I'm going to vote Elsa, but also because I kind of feel like I don't have a lot of a horse in this race. And if I vote Elsa, that means it's a tie, and that means the chat gets to decide. And I think I want to let the chat decide this one. So chat, it's up to you.
No.
It's down to you to decide which sister
It's tough.
goes on. It's definitely, I guess it depends. Like,
wait, Shannon, you can't vote.
You can't vote. You literally.
I'm rallying. Dawn said I'm cheating. I'm not. I was just encouraging a little friendly competition.
It looks pretty tied.
I don't know. I think Elsa just pulled away a little bit.
I think it's like 4-3 for Elsa.
1, 2, 3,
All right.
Are you counting
We're gonna-
Shannon's vote?
No,
I'm
not counting mine.
Wow.
We're going to give you guys
Okay.
10 more seconds, and then we're going to cut off voting. So right now, Elsa is ahead by 1 vote. So if you want Anna to win, jump in there. If you want Elsa to cement her victory, jump in there. Oh, we got another Elsa.
Yes.
All right, I'm calling time. We'll give it just a second for the chat to catch up with the delay. But I think we've got Elsa as the victor here. Yeah, I don't see any other votes coming in. So Elsa takes this one. All right, and that we have one more matchup in our first quadrant, and that is dun, 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 Wendy, who already beat Alice. How rude. Wendy versus Merida. Who wants to start first on this one?
I'm definitely gotta go Merida. I don't know that this is a hard choice. I mean, at least it's not for me.
I think it's hard for me only because I feel like Merida is a bit of a brat, but I mean.
But I feel like that's a failing of the movie and the fact that it was obviously very disjointed in which direction they wanted to go. Because if you watch like the first, I would say like third of the movie, she's not quite so bratty. And then all of a sudden it's like she almost seems like she has a tiny bit of a personality shift. And that's what becomes like the predominant part of her personality, where it wasn't necessarily before. Like she was rambunctious and she obviously didn't want to be a prim and perfect princess, but she like ratcheted all of that up to 11 when they started going down the weird bear story instead of making it a really interesting story about her, you know, being in the tournament on her own, which would have been
I feel
fantastic.
like you just talked me out of Merida. So.
Yeah, I'm not.
I disagree. I don't think the movie is that disjointed. I understand that you don't like the bear part. Like, I'm okay with that. I get it. But I don't think it feels disjointed. I think it feels like, to me, the whole bear part exists because the reason she was the way she was is because she was being forced into this mold predominantly by her mother. And so the story, to me, the natural progression of the story is to have some sort of like conflict that makes her come to terms with her mother as a person and her relationship with her mother, and that makes her mother see her as, you know, her own self and not a daughter or a princess whose strings need to be pulled for the greater good. So to me, like, I get that if you don't like that part of the story, I think there are probably a few issues with it. I would agree. But to me, it doesn't feel disjointed. To me, it's like, I love the fact that this is like this mother-daughter conflict, and it's bigger than just Merida, because it is bigger than Merida as a person. It's about her heritage, and it's about, you know, as a princess, you're supposed to do what your family needs you to do for the good of the kingdom, blah, blah, blah. And that conflict that centers around her family and her choices. I don't know. I'm like super pro Merida all the way. I love this movie. I love the character. I'm like,
I feel like you're just bitter towards Wendy because she beat out Alice.
I just don't like, yes, but I don't care for Wendy as a character. Like, I don't know. I think, and to me, it's a little unfair in the sense that I think all the females in Peter Pan are, you know, cast into a little bit of a negative light against Peter as sort of like borderline, like, innocent childhood love interest kind of thing. And I think that frustrates me about the film, that the film doesn't develop the female characters as sort of independent of Peter.
I don't know. I feel like they kind of do. I mean, not as great as they could have, but for the time, like, again, I'm still 100% pro Merida and voting for her. But I mean, Wendy did stand up to Peter. She, you know, she also refused, you know, she was going to walk the plank rather than do. So I feel like she did have her own, especially for the time, her own version of being independent, and trying to stand up for herself.
She was a leader. They all wanted her to be their mother. I mean, she did a lot of growing up throughout the movie, and even at the end, she told her parents that she was ready to grow up.
But I would argue that Merida did a ton of growing up. I mean, she was basically a kid, you know, 15 years old, and she had to face a situation where her choices created this huge problem, and she had to call on all of her strength and test her limits to fix what she broke. And I think that's, to me, like, Wendy didn't have to fix somebody. Like, Wendy maybe sort of had to fix the damage Peter did a little bit, or like clean up his mess, so to speak, but Merida had to clean up her own mess. And to me, like, in some ways, I think that's more emotionally transformative for a character than having to just mother somebody else.
See,
well, I'm just going to go with straight up nostalgia and say I'm going to pick Wendy because I just like Peter Pan better as a movie.
Fair.
That's fair.
Yeah. So when it comes to Merida, I can appreciate this story because I've had those own conflicts with my mother. So I think it's important that they made that movie. However, I do also fall to nostalgia, and I even more so appreciate Wendy as like a kid, but kind of in this world where there are no adults, and she does take that like adult-ish role, and that happens to some people in life too. You know, sometimes people are without you know, adults and have to grow up pretty quick and take control of those situations. So I'm Team Wendy.
Uh-oh. That means we have another tie, which means the chat gets to decide. So, chat, we are down to Merida, and we are down to Wendy.
And
you get to vote. Type the name. Type the name of the character you want to vote for in the chat. We'll give you, you know, like 20 seconds or so to do that, and then we will tally up the votes at the end, and whoever wins moves forward in the competition.
Oh, man.
Oh, we're split again. We got Wendy, Merida, Wendy, Merida, Merida,
oh,
Merida,
no.
Merida. Oh, Merida.
No.
Huge upswell of support for Merida. Love it. Love it.
You made the right decision.
I agree. All right. We'll give it 5 more seconds. If you're going to vote for Wendy or Merida, do it now.
No, I think Wendy's done.
All right. Time out.
Oh.
Yep. I don't think there's any way to come back from that one.
Nope.
That is Merida moving on. All right, so we are on to the next quadrant of our brackets. And our first matchup here is Mary Poppins versus Eve, which I think is a really isn't that an interesting, two completely, couldn't get more different characters, I feel like. And,
They're
you've
both
got
really
this
good at
sort of,
cleaning up.
that is fair. That is fair.
And they can both fly.
That's true.
This isn't even a competition.
They both have blue eyes.
It's not a competition, so who's your vote for, Shannon? I feel like I can guess,
Poppins.
but yeah.
Poppins.
Anybody else feel like this is an easy one?
Same. Yeah. I mean, Eve is cute, but Mary Poppins is Mary Poppins.
Yeah.
She's practically perfect in every way.
It's hard to vote against Mary Poppins when she is practically perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a tougher time with this. I love both of these characters, and I'm not as attached to Mary Poppins as I think a lot of people are.
I actually
which
prefer
I get,
WALL-E as a movie.
I think WALL-E is a.
Whoa. I know
I'm
WALL-E's
not gonna
probably
say
my favorite Pixar movie. It's my favorite Pixar movie.
I don't want to say that
but
WALL-E is a better movie. I think WALL-E is a more complex movie. I think it's a deeper movie than, because it Mary Poppins is about one family, and I understand it's set against a backdrop of socioeconomic unrest, but I think WALL-E is sort of this really interesting, almost post-apocalyptic kind of storyline that to me is a bigger story about humanity and what makes us human, and that I find a more compelling story. And so I don't know that if my vote mattered in this, that I would vote for Eve, but because you guys all voted for Mary Poppins, I'm going to vote for Eve because I think she deserves a little bit of credit.
I do love Eve. I think that WALL-E is a better movie, at least for me, than Mary Poppins. But when you're just talking about the characters themselves, Mary is a better character than Eve.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I disagree with that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Our next matchup. I don't know that this one's going to be tough for anybody. We've got Belle. And then we've got Perdita. So they're both wearing white and blue.
Oh yeah.
I'm not sure. I feel like the similarities may end there. Thoughts, feelings.
Belle.
Build a case.
No.
Anybody not voting Belle? Because I feel like
me.
Oh,
what?
You're going Perdita? Oh, interesting, Shannon. Tell me more.
Do you want to hear my logic?
I do.
Yeah.
I'm desperate to hear your logic because this is interesting.
Okay. Well, if I were put in a room with Perdita, a dog, and Belle, a woman, I would choose the dog.
Okay.
Who would you rather hug? Yeah, I would go with Perdita if this was a who would you rather hug.
I also, this is terrible to say, I'm not a book reader. My sister is, we always call her Belle because she has her face in a book all the time. So that is also a strike for me.
So you're saying you don't like your dogs. Sister? That's what you're saying.
Okay, hold on.
Okay.
All right.
Anybody else? Ashley, are you Belle?
Yeah. Perdita's great. She saved her puppies, but Belle is Belle.
Yeah, I kind of have to go with Belle, and this is a nostalgia and how much I I mean, we're all too young for 101 Dalmatians when it came out, and it was never a film that I found particularly compelling at any point. You know, when I watched it as a kid, when I've watched it as an adult, I was never like, oh my God, I love this movie. It's my favorite movie. I don't know, but Belle, like, Beauty and the Beast came out when I was in high school. I worked at the movie theater. I sat in the back of the movie theater during my shifts and watched this movie like 1,000 times. And even if I have a lot of issues with Belle and her Stockholm syndrome, like, I still love this film. And just I feel like there's not a competition here. All right, so it's 3-1 for Belle, unsurprisingly, I think.
She's got a lot of cash registers.
She's got a lot of cash registers. Yeah. Shout out to Stephen Crawford. If Mary Poppins doesn't win, I am filing a lawsuit. Well, lucky for us, I guess, we're not getting sued because Mary Poppins won. I don't know how much we can promise you. No, I think Mary Poppins. No, I don't know. Mary Poppins will face Belle in the next round, so that's going to be an interesting one. Because they're both human beings, Shannon, so you're going to have to choose a person.
Poppins all the way.
Poppins for the win. All right. Our next matchup is talk about OG. We got Minnie Mouse versus Nala.
Minnie.
Oh man.
I mean, she's.
I should have worn my Minnie Mouse shirt. I'm wearing my Minnie Mouse earrings right now.
If we're saying that, merchandising and how much money each of them bring in, I guarantee Minnie is bringing in a lot more money than Nala.
I don't know that Nala's bringing in a lot of money on her own. Like Lion King as a whole, yes, but I don't know that people are like clamoring for Nala spirit jerseys.
Or Timon and Pumbaa.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like tough decisions are gonna have to start being made. And I mean, if we're just gonna go off the OG criteria, then we may as well just like fast forward to the end, and it's like Cinderella and Minnie and Snow White and I don't even know who else. Yeah, Leia. But Minnie's nice, Minnie's sweet, but I don't know. Like, she doesn't really have a whole lot of character. Well-defined character outside of being Minnie's girlfriend for the most part, I feel like. And Nala, she does things like she, from the beginning, she's with Simba, but she's her own person. She, when things start getting bad, she leaves to find help and then rallies the lionesses to lead the, I don't know. I feel like she's just better, independently of everything. She's objectively a better character.
I think that's fair, that as a character who demonstrates behaviors that I find admirable, I will put Nala she scores pretty high on that criteria. But I don't know. I don't even like Minnie. Like somebody said in chat, I won't call you out. Somebody said I never love Minnie. I never love Minnie. Nothing makes me crazier than all the polka dot stuff. It's also so as I was searching for pictures to showcase on the characters on this episode, I realized I specifically picked this picture of Minnie. This is from 80s Minnie.
I was gonna say 80s, early 90s.
And I love it because she's not wearing polka dots. I hate the polka dot thing so much that that is part, it frustrates me that as the OG female character in the Disney universe, she was literally the second character created after Mickey as the, let's not count Oswald or whatever, that she's I don't know, that she's been reduced to polka dots. That frustrates me. I think that she and mouse ears. Like, it frustrates me that she hasn't, and there have, like, you know, like you were saying about Daisy, Ashley, like I think there are lots of portrayals of Minnie in especially the older cartoons that she has a little bit more character and a little bit more sort of agency of her own, but it's hard to find. It's harder to find, I think, than a lot of other characters, and that's unfortunate. So I'm not a big Minnie fan for that reason. That I think, you know, she doesn't have a lot of her own that, you know, isn't solely in relation to Mickey. But all of that being said, I think if there was, here's a random criteria to throw out. If there was a character that like Disney could go on without of these two, like it's definitely Minnie is the one they can't do without. So my vote goes to Minnie.
That's true.
Wow, I did not see you picking Minnie at the end of that.
Yeah, really.
Right, like I thought I got one, and
Stephen Crawford gave us a super chat.
Oh, thank you again, Stephen.
oh, thank you.
Isn't
Nala Simba's?
She is, right? She's like a cousin.
Yeah,
There's a relationship.
Because there's only two male lions in the pride.
Said? Yeah, like they never really address it one way or the other.
Yeah. It is a little weird. One of the many things that are, you know, if you pry too deeply into some Disney animated films, you get a lot more weirdness than you bargained for. Yeah. All right, so we've got 2 for Minnie.
I don't know where I'm going on this.
I was gonna say you're pretty much.
What do we have?
There's 1 for Nala, and then
1 for Nala and 2 for Minnie. So you're the deciding vote. It's either you vote for Minnie and she wins, or you vote Nala and you can throw to the chat.
I'm really toying with this, you know, not falling always to the OG. But although I watched Lion King growing up, and I think Nala was a strong female character, she just never resonated with me.
She doesn't get a lot of screen time.
No. I'm going to have to go Minnie on this one.
The OG takes it. All right, our next matchup. Be prepared. Actually, that's a Lion King joke. Sorry. We got Tinkerbell versus Moana.
Oh no.
Anybody?
Yeah, nothing against Moana, but I love Tink because she's sassy and she got an attitude problem. And she's jealous.
I love them both.
This is...
All right, well, for me, this isn't hard.
Yeah?
I am Moana 100% all the way.
Whoa,
One of my favorite things in watching last week's episode was somebody in chat was like, I'm just going to say it, Tink is a B. And I was like, yes, thank you. She gets it. Like, she is. Like, you can say sassy or attitude problem, but what you're saying is Tink is a B. Like, she's kind of like, she's not really a great, like, she's not a good friend to Peter. She kind of, she's like this, like, chaotic agent that just kind of messes with stuff because she's cranky. I don't know.
I'm gonna let Ashley vote, and then whatever Ashley votes for, I'm gonna vote the opposite, so we can throw it to the chat.
Be ready, Chad. Be ready.
Yeah, be thinking, chat. I mean, there are so many classic moments with Tink. My daughter's nursery is Neverland. Tink is prominently featured. But I do love me some Moana.
I think what gets me about Moana is, and I love the movie and I love her as a character, but I'm a little tired of the same narrative of like the female overcoming and going on her own path. Like I get that that's important and good to see, but I also love seeing like those characters who are kind of like our bad side or our inner demons.
Well, sure. And I mean, in Moana, you've got like Maui is kind of that character, right? Like it just so happens that, Peter wasn't that character because he was the lead in the film. Like you can't be entirely human and be the lead role in the film because you're the one who's got to have that story arc.
I mean, I guess if Desi's gonna vote opposite of me so we can throw it to the chat and not make this difficult decision on our own, I'm just gonna say Tink so that she can say Moana, because I could sit here and agonize for it for way longer than it should take. So
you know what? I'm gonna vote for Moana.
Desi, you had the opportunity to like mess with everyone right there. You could have been like, no, Tink wins. We're done here. For no other reason than, in the spirit, that's what Tinkerbell would have done. Is let's just be clear. That's what Tink would have done. Stephen Crawford. I'm gonna count this as a vote for Tink. Okay, so Stephen, starting with all comments after here, we are counting your vote. So if you said Tink or Moana earlier in the chat, your vote doesn't count until it comes in after Stephen's super chat. And we'll start tallying up votes going forward. Oh, we got 1, 2, 3. Oh, it's close. It's tight. I think we're tied right now. Are we tied right now?
Yeah.
I think Moana might have it.
No, now Moana. Oh wait, no.
Oh, I think we're 5 and 5.
No.
Oh. 6-5 Moana. No. Moana's in the lead. All right, you're getting 10 more seconds. We got a lot of votes. It's 6-5 Moana right now. So anybody else who votes, your vote's going to count.
Tink.
I'm keeping an eye out for you voting in the chat.
This is so hard.
All right, voting is cut off. And it looks like we don't have anything else coming in. It looks like Moana is our winner by just a fairy's wing. Oh, we got another Moana. She takes it away.
Aww.
All right, that was more intense. I thought there was more Moana love out there. I guess I didn't but then again, like I guess it makes sense. There's a ton of Tinkerbell love. Like Lord knows, like for a character who wound up being like a pretty small side character in a film.
She doesn't even say anything.
Literally small. Yeah, she has no words. And she's not, I don't know how long she's in the movie, but she's not in the movie for probably more than like 15 minutes, I would guess. And yet, like, she's created, like, there are so many people that love Tinkerbell. Like, she flies from the castle every night, and there's Tinkerbell merchandise, and she has a character cavalcade and all that stuff. So it's impressive how much she like has, for an older character who's not the star of a film, to have so much staying power with fans. Like, that's pretty impressive.
It's true, because, and I know they did like the whole fairies push, but I feel like even that, like, one, she didn't really need it, but people didn't even really care about it. Like, they liked her from the OG movie, and that was really all that they needed.
Yeah, I don't think that Tinkerbell, like, subsequent movies and direct-to-TV DVD stuff and the TV show, I don't think that really, like, made a big impact on people. It was the old stuff. the
it
original
was kind
film.
of odd, and I think I even made this comment to Desi when we were making the bracket. Again, if you want to start digging into like weird questions between like what happened to Tinkerbell between the like fairy movies, which I guess are like prequels, to then she winds up on Neverland. Like dark things had to have happened because she goes to not talking at all and has a serious chip on her shoulder compared to the
and
helpful
left all of her
Tinkerer
friends and family behind.
Right? Like what happened? That is an origin story that I feel like we shouldn't know.
That would be an
but
awesome
I really
movie.
want to know.
Aren't they talking about making a Tinkerbell film? I think they're talking about making a live action Tinkerbell film.
That's the live action
maybe,
Tinkerbell story we need. Is like how
maybe
she goes
yeah.
helpful, happy Tinkerer.
It's gonna be like Tinkerbell behind the music.
Angry.
You can't
on Neverland and finds Peter.
You can't forget Hook, though.
It's true.
Oh yeah,
that's true.
That is true.
She talks in that one.
She does talk in that one. She's still sassy, but she talks in that one.
Oh, that makes me. I haven't seen that movie in years. That makes me want to watch that movie.
It's really crazy now knowing that Wendy makes it to the next round, but Tink doesn't.
Isn't that weird? No, Merida won. Wendy didn't make it. Oh. Merida won the chat vote.
Yeah, we got out.
Yeah.
Oh, did she? Okay.
Yeah.
Never mind then. Tiger Lily didn't even make the list. So.
Tiger Lily
or
didn't
Peter Pan ones are out.
I mean, you want to talk about
I guess technically she's a princess.
0.3 seconds.
All right, our next matchup, we're moving to the other side of the bracket. In true March Madness fashion, we've only gotten through half of our matchups so far, and we're already an hour into the show. So we'll try to pick up the pace a little bit here so we don't run too long. But our next matchup is Ariel versus Elastigirl. So we've got Ariel, and then from The Incredibles, Elastigirl.
I can quickly go first, I think.
Sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think Incredibles is overrated. I enjoyed it, but I never feel the need to watch it again. Elastigirl is just okay. And again, I hate to just vote for the OG, but Ariel's a mermaid, and she again toils with that, having to give up something to try and get something else, that dilemma that, we go through in life. And yeah, Team Ariel all the way.
Yeah, I got to vote for Ariel as well. That was the first movie I ever saw in the theater, and she's just got a special place in my heart because of that.
Yeah. My dad, much like my traumatizing of Frozen, I feel like my dad is still 33 years later traumatized for how much I made him watch The Little Mermaid growing up. I about wore out my tape. So yeah.
I still have my VHS.
Same. It's right.
Mm-hmm.
Behind
Don't show it on the internet.
Why? Oh, right. Because it's an OG VHS. But yes, Ariel.
Well, I am voting Elastigirl because if you want my arguments against Ariel, you can go back and rewatch the marathon episode where I felt so vindicated. At one point, Stephanie was like, I don't really like my kids watching The Little Mermaid because she's such a poor female role model. So yeah, Elastigirl. I'm not a big Helen Hunt fan. Like, it annoys me that she voices that character because I feel like I would have liked that character so much more if it had a different voice actor. But I think Elastigirl is a pretty I don't know. She rocks. She kicks butt.
I don't think I knew that Elastigirl was Helen Hunt, and now I'm never going to be able to watch it again without thinking of her.
You can't not hear it. Once it's really distinctive. And I don't care for her, but she's still a good character in my opinion. All right, our next matchup is Rapunzel versus Elizabeth.
Oh, wow.
This is probably the
That's
hardest one for me.
Elizabeth Turner from Pirates of the Caribbean. Thoughts, feelings?
I'm going with Elizabeth Turner. Rapunzel it's a great movie. I walk down the aisle to I See the Light. It has great moments, but I don't know. There's something about Rapunzel herself that I just don't like. I don't know why. I don't like her.
You know,
Love Elizabeth Turner.
Sorry, I just remembered something. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
But I was
fine.
just watching Tangled yesterday. And you know what bothers the heck out of me about Tangled? I love the movie so much until she's like, when they cut my hair, like I lose my powers and it turns brown. What's wrong with brown hair?
Right?
But Flynn says he prefers brunettes.
So, but anyway, I do adore that movie, but I will never stop watching Pirates ever. I watch it several times a year, all of them. Elizabeth Turner is my hero all day, every day.
So, like, some people get burned out on Let It Go. My husband, his favorite song is it's the one they sing in the Snuggly Duckling. I've Got a Dream. He's worn that one out for me. That's his favorite song. I don't know why.
They sing that in the Newcastle stage show. That's like the Newcastle stage show is Flynn and Rapunzel and like a bunch of the hooligans from the Snuggly Duckling singing that on stage.
I think for the same reason I voted against Jessie because I was worn out on Toy Story, I'll go ahead and vote against Rapunzel because I'm worn out on that. One because of my kids and one because of my husband. So I'll go with Elizabeth Turner.
I have issues with both of these characters. I don't really care for either of them. Mainly because, and correcting myself, thank you, Chad. It's Holly Hunter, not Helen Hunt. I'm sorry. Women with whose names both first and last names begin with H. It's Holly Hunter. You still, I feel like when you hear it, you'll hear it.
Yeah.
But I don't like. Speaking of actresses, I don't like Keira Knightley. She just bothers me, and I like this character, but I dislike the actress, and so that makes it hard for me.
When Pirates came out, it was hard for me because it was the first time a leading actress that was cast as like an adult role was younger than me. And then I started to feel old. And now they're all younger than me. So that was the first time.
But I don't know. I like in terms of which character I like better, I like Elizabeth better. So I'm going to give it to Elizabeth too. All right. Our next matchup is Snow White, speaking of OGs, versus Buttercup from The Princess Bride, which is now owned by Disney and makes her a Disney princess.
I feel like I like Buttercup better as a character, but Snow White is Disney.
I was totally thrown off because I thought we were talking about Buttercup the unicorn from Toy Story.
All right, there's one female from Toy Story that we're
just gonna have to do a whole separate like bracket of Toy Story female characters that we forgot.
Well, but he.
I just realized
there are lots of them.
We forgot Trixie. Yeah. There's several. It's fine. They just didn't make the cut.
Bonnie's the worst.
Bonnie's kind of the worst. All right, Shannon.
I'll make this one easy. I've never seen The Princess Bride, but I'm gonna vote for Buttercup because I hate Snow White. Albeit I appreciate the film, the history of the film, the connection to Walt. That is all well and good. But growing up, they always said my sister looked like Belle and I look like Snow White because I'm pale and have dark hair. I think Snow White has the worst haircut. She lives in the middle of the woods. She takes food from a stranger in the middle of the woods and has to be saved by a man. Team Buttercup.
Yeah.
I mean,
Ashley?
I feel like Snow White gets an unfair amount of hate because I feel like a lot of people forget that she's like barely 14 when the events of the movie happen. And so a lot of her poor decisions are because, again, she's like not even really I mean, I guess she's technically a teenager.
Almost murdered. I mean,
right? Like she kind of goes through a lot
by herself in the woods and still very positive.
Yeah. And that takes a lot.
I don't think I would have such a sunny outlook on life if somebody almost tried to murder me and left me in the woods and told me I could never go back home.
But the thing is, kind of like the Nala and Minnie situation, tough decisions have to start being made. And the fact that you are the OG princess, all respect to you being the OG princess, but that doesn't automatically get you a buy into being the best or the greatest or anything like that. So again, Buttercup is a better character. It's just, it is what it is. I mean, her speech towards the end where, she's telling Prince Humperdinck off, great moment. With the send 1,000 ships or whatever it is when she's in his room, talking about Wesley and he'll come for me. Great moment. So yeah, Buttercup.
Yeah, I have also no real love lost for Snow White. She's just like, I just feel like there's no depth to her character. Like, it's hard for me to have any real feeling about her because she just, like, I don't feel like we ever really know anything about her other than she's just like smiling all the time and talking to animals, which I don't know. There's just nothing there for me to grab onto. I like characters with depth and grit and like internal strife that you can like see play out in the movie. And I don't think Snow White really has like that much of, you don't see her really like struggling or like debating what's the right thing to do or any of that. Like she just kind of flits through life and it's fine. It's just, it doesn't do anything for me in terms of loving her as a character. Whereas Buttercup, on the other hand, this movie was a movie I watched a lot as a kid. And I feel like I looked at her as a role model of like, wow, you can be a princess and you can still like, you can still achieve. I keep stopping speaking because I want to curse and say things like she's bad at ASS, and I don't want to do that on a family show. So I keep censoring myself. But yeah, for me, it's Buttercup all the way. I love her. I've loved her for years, and I think she's great. And that movie's great. And if you told me, Jill, you can either never see Snow White again or never see Princess Bride again, it would not be a hard choice of what I would take.
Okay. Yeah.
Absolutely.
If that was the option, then yeah, I'm going to go with Princess Bride as a movie.
So is that our first sweep of the night?
No, I said Snow White.
It wasn't Desi voted Snow White. No, Elizabeth in the last round, in the last matchup, swept.
Yeah.
Swept Rapunzel. Dawn said in the chat, Grumpy is more fleshed out than Snow White, which I kind of agree with. I think he's got more character depth than she does. Stephen Crawford, this one's for you. Another super chat. Thank you so much. All I can say is, as you wish, Snow White is a poor role model. I just don't think she's any. I don't know if I'd call her poor entirely. Just she's not really a role model because there's nothing there to role model.
And I made the argument at Thanksgiving, but I don't put her in the role model category even because she's barely 14. She absolutely should be a role model to anybody. Technically, I don't even think Merida is old enough to like a lot of these princesses are not old enough to be role models. Like they should still have role models. So I don't know. again, Buttercup is still a better character, but
Well, then we need to question the people who made movies about them, because you don't make someone a
it's also
lead in a movie
1937.
without.
Like, the fact that the female was even the lead of the movie, I feel like was kind of an accomplishment.
All right, next matchup. This one may be interesting. I have a feeling this will be interesting, but maybe you guys will prove me wrong. Aurora versus Padmé.
Padmé.
So
she is
my sister is going to murder me for voting against her, but Padmé Amidala was that word that we're not going to say, the positive BA word that we can't say on a family show. Like, George Lucas gave her horrible dialogue, but she's still a fantastic character. And again, and kind of a counterpoint to my Snow White argument, because she's also like 14 in the first movie and is like, we don't negotiate with terrorists, basically, and, is fighting for her country. And, does everything that she can to be a good and strong leader, and just continues
she cares
to grow
about democracy.
Right? Like, she grows and progresses through the first 3 movies. Like, again, kind of some shaky ground with the whole Anakin love story, but overall, a really great character.
I mean, if you're talking about
falls in love with a guy she meets one time
and will literally throw away her entire life for having met him for what, like an hour or so in the woods. She meets a dude in the woods and will literally throw away her entire life. So I don't think we can use shaky love story as
like, what were her other prospects, honestly, though? Like, what, to be fair, what was she actually throwing away?
You don't need to jump on the first boy you see as soon as you turn 16 years old, especially when that boy is running around the woods.
I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm just, from the
I will say that Philip
throwing her life away.
Philip is probably the best looking prince. I get it. So
very good point.
He sings, he's charming, he fights for her, but she doesn't get to be there for a lot of that because she's asleep. So she doesn't get to see how awesome he is.
Says Anna in the chat, I bet Aurora doesn't even know the prince's feelings about sand. Enjoyed that. I enjoyed that.
It's rough, it's coarse, it gets everywhere.
It does. But yeah, for me, like, to me, this is easy. I've watched Sleeping Beauty again pretty recently and realized I liked the film more than I remember liking it. And some of that is me liking Aurora more as a person. Like, I feel like she had more character to her than I remembered. But she's just, I don't know, like, it's hard when you watch a film that's supposed to be about a princess and you like the villain more than you like the princess. And, like, I don't think there are a lot of Disney films where I can say that, but this is one where I can say that. So
I like Yzma better than any of the other females in The Emperor's New Groove.
Yzma is amazing.
She is fantastic.
I can't even think of what Pacha's wife is right now. What's her name?
What is her name?
Oh, man.
Yeah, see? Yzma. Better. We were having a villains match-off.
But his wife isn't even the secondary character of the movie. I feel like she's like a tertiary character.
Pacha isn't even the secondary character of the movie, much less his wife.
That's true.
All right. Other votes here. You're going Padmé? Desi, you went Padmé, yes?
Padmé, 100%.
And Ashley, you went Padmé?
Yep.
That means we got a sweep. Wow, Aurora just got swept out of the competition. That's pretty fascinating.
I think Padmé was like a 16 seed too. She was low.
Yeah, we didn't think she'd go very far.
Wow.
She's so far our underdog story.
She is the Cinderella story of this bracket, even though she's not Cinderella. All right, so we've now cleared out 3 of our 4 quadrants on the brackets. We're on to the last one, and that our first matchup there is Leia, again, OG. How can you not love this girl? Versus Lilo, also adorable and sweet.
No, I don't want to vote Leia versus Lilo.
It's tough, right?
No.
It's tough, right?
They both
have dark hair and they have 4-letter names that begin with L.
Lilo and Stitch is like my favorite movie, but I'm also such a huge Star Wars fan. I don't know. I can't vote.
They're both such great characters. Like that. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
I think I'm actually going to go with Lilo because I love her growth and her story where she's just kind of, lost in a way. Just her and her sister, she's misbehaving and she takes this crazy alien under her wing and Stitch is adorable. And they become a little family, a little Ohana. And I know Leia has this, I think it's kind of unfair to look at both of them because although I want to go to her, she has this really long story, this really long journey. And it's great, but I kind of want just something wholesome and simple.
I really feel like I can't even vote.
Uh-oh.
They're like my 2 favorites.
I don't know. I don't find this hard. I am Leia all the way. I grew up with the original trilogy. I don't know. Lilo and Stitch came out at a weird time in my life. I was a little too old for, I was in that late teen, too old for Disney kind of stage. So this didn't really grab me when it first came out, and watching it later, I love it, but it's just not, in terms of what has meant more over the course of my life and what character has influenced me more over the course of my life and just influenced everyone I know. I mean, I grew up in a generation of Star Wars nerds, and I just can't not vote for Leia. I love Lilo. She's sweet and cute, but to me, it's just no competition in terms of significance, cultural significance, not even Disney significance, but it's so so foundational to our the culture that I grew up in and still live in today.
It's so hard, but I feel as though I kind of have to stick to my criteria. And as much as I personally love Lilo, Leia's the better character. She has more, and that's not to say that Lilo doesn't, but Leia just has more. So I gotta go with Leia.
Okay.
That was genuinely hard.
I think I was a senior in high school when Lilo and Stitch came out, and my sister is 12 years younger than me. So we are about the same age difference as Lilo and Nani. And our grandparents lived in Hawaii, and we spent a lot of time in Hawaii. So just for my personal nostalgic reasons and because Lilo and Stitch is one of my favorite movies, I'm going to pick Lilo and then force the chat to pick. And I know the chat's going to pick Leia, but
yeah, I was going to say, for what it's worth, if it takes the pressure off you, if you throw it to chat, I don't think it's going to be it's not going to be close.
No.
And I'll probably vote for Leia to go all the way after this, but I just have personal reasons for Lilo.
That's fair. Chat, it's up to you. All right, our first vote is in for Lilo. see where this goes. Oh
gosh.
all right.
Ooh.
2-2.
Wow, this is not going the way that I thought it was going to go.
All right, here we come. Here comes a. Oh no, it's still Leia's still. There's more Lilo votes than I expected. Oh, interesting. Ahsoka should have been in the bracket.
Yeah, that would have been a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
Maybe next year's March Madness we'll do just Marvel Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that would be fun. That would be fun. I would also love to see like a villains bracket. And I know we talked about villains, but like there aren't enough female villains. But I think if we did, and actually I think if we pulled in Marvel and Star Wars,
the female villains are the better villains, though.
For sure.
If you think about the female villains, Maleficent, Yzma, like I mentioned already,
Ursula.
Cruella de Vil, Ursula,
Mm-hmm.
Mother Gothel, even. Like, I find the female villains.
The Wicked Queen, like, I mean, in Snow White, I feel like the Queen is the most like interesting and deep character. Like, she's evil, but
yeah.
All right, I feel like there's no competition here. Leia takes it. All right, moving on
Lilo
to
put
our
up a
next
good fight.
Lilo put up a good fight. Lilo got her fair shakes in this one, I think. All right, next up we have Esmeralda versus Mia from Princess Diaries. Thoughts, feelings?
I love Mia.
I do too.
I'm going to vote for her because she got to kiss Brink.
So.
I got to give my Brink vote in there.
I'm going for Mia.
I'm voting for Esmeralda. I think she stood up for her people. She, stood up for, injustice against Quasimodo. She wasn't afraid. And Mia was okay, but like I didn't really see a whole lot of growth in her. Like she was an awkward teenager who got a stylist and a new haircut. Like she was the quintessential like, hey, you found out you're special at 16 and everything. Like she had roadblocks, but at the end of the day, everything was now fine. So I don't feel like she had to work quite as hard for what she got as Esmeralda did.
Yeah, so chat, get ready because I am throwing my vote to Esmeralda as well, which gives us a tie. And I say that because I love Hunchback. I think Hunchback is one of the more underrated Disney animated films, and because the Princess Diaries came out when I was like 24, and like as a 24-year-old, I had absolutely zero interest in this movie. So again, like I'm too old for this. Yeah, if I had been in high school, I think I would have. Yeah, it would have been different. But
I think I was in high school. Maybe I was in college, but
I definitely missed
close to the high school age.
I missed the age range to care about the Princess Diaries when it first came out. So, all right, chat. We got 1 vote for Esmeralda so far. 2 votes for Esmeralda so far.
There we go.
Keep it coming. Keep it coming. Oh, we got 1 vote.
Julie Andrews was her grandma. She already won life.
That's a great point.
Oh, it looks. Oh, there's a lot of Esmeralda going on. Oh, but we got some Mia too. Oh, I think Esmeralda is running away with it at this point. All right.
Yeah.
Couple more seconds. If you're voting, vote now. There's another Esmeralda. All right, voting is cut off. Let's give it a second to catch up. Nope, it looks like Esmeralda's got this one. All right, our next matchup is Mulan versus Shuri from the Black Panther. This is tough. They are both, again, here's the word we all want to use.
They're both really good characters.
They're both incredibly strong. Yeah.
I'm going to give it to Mulan only because she had to really work for it, versus I think Shuri, just by virtue of her birth, she had, she was already very smart, but she was also given, like, access to vibranium and all this technology, and was a princess. So Mulan had to work harder for it.
I'm also going with Mulan because I love how the story brings so much of the culture into it. She held her own with the men. The scene where they're in the training camp always gave me goosebumps. I love Mulan so much.
Every time, like, I'm in a meeting and somebody says, "Let's get down to business," the next
Right?
thing that it's
not.
so hard to not. I always want to say, to defeat the Huns.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, they're both great characters. They both fight for their country, quite literally. But yeah, I feel like Mulan had to risk a little bit more. Like, Shuri was royalty. She probably definitely had training and everything from a very, very early age. It doesn't diminish what she did, but Mulan definitely had to work harder for it. Like, she ran away. She literally was sentenced to death just when they found out who she was, even though she had already saved everybody's life. Like, definitely Mulan.
Yeah, I agree. And I think Mulan, and I mean, this is just to a good extent, I think, how they portrayed Shuri and how they wanted to portray Shuri as, like, you didn't get to see a lot under the hood with her. Like, you didn't get to understand her, like, hopes and dreams and inner struggles. Whereas with Mulan, like, that was so much of what the film was about and how much she sacrificed for her family. I suppose not that Shuri didn't, but to me, Mulan is a more compelling and relatable character because you get to, like, identify with her as an individual, whereas Shuri is more like, Shuri to me is almost representative of an idea more than she's really a character, because you don't get that level of depth. So great character, both really strong, powerful women who kick a lot of butt in their films, but I gotta go with Mulan. All right, and our last matchup of the night, ladies. Let's make it good. We've got Jasmine versus Pocahontas. This is interesting.
It's the tough one.
I'm always going to pick Jasmine just because she's my favorite. She was she was the first princess of color, and I know that I'm not, like, Middle Eastern or Arabic, but she was the first princess I could look at and say she looks like somebody I could identify with.
I've always been a bigger fan of Jasmine over Pocahontas. Nothing against Pocahontas, but Jasmine is more, I was going to say independent, but that's not necessarily true, because Pocahontas is pretty independent as well. But Jasmine kind of fighting her situation and not being afraid to break out and kind of be her own person. I vote Jasmine.
Yeah, I feel like Jasmine, but you could make the same arguments for Pocahontas, and she kind of ratchets it up a notch because she says, "No, I'm not going to marry Kocoum," and then I feel like she gets a lot of unfair dismissal because of how historically inaccurate her movie is, and she was.
If you take out the history and
right,
you
like,
just look at the story by itself. Yeah. I still really like Pocahontas, and there are similarities to both of them. Both of them, their father wanted them to marry somebody. They said no, went out, ran off and found somebody that they actually cared about. And then in the end, they were both willing to give up that love for the sake of their country. Now, luckily, Jasmine's dad said, you know what, I'm going to change the law. But Pocahontas, unfortunately, John Smith sailed off.
Yeah. Well, Jasmine also has a tiger.
Him, he got shot, so
tiger beats raccoon.
Tiger beats raccoon and hummingbird.
I'm a big fan of tigers.
It's true, and I love them both, but I think I'm going to vote for Pocahontas.
Oh, that means it's down to me. So before I break, I put my vote in and bring this tournament to a close. Another shout out to Stephen Crawford, who says, you missed my other super chat. And then I scrolled back and realized that his super chat was all the way back when we were talking about the matchup between Padmé and Aurora. And Stephen says, Padmé wins even though she sleeps with a kid who she tries to mother at first. What signal does this send? Yes,
wow.
Indeed.
We talked about that a little bit last week.
I mean, yeah, and like that's like, again, that kind of goes back, and we didn't talk about it with Star Wars characters, and maybe there's space there. I mean, like, look, Leia like kissed her brother before she knew it was her brother, you know, like there's all kinds of weird in Star Wars universe. And for that matter, like the love stories in a lot of Disney films are pretty questionable in my opinion. Again, reference the marathon show argument about like needing a man to come and save you and Stockholm syndrome and all of that. But yeah, and speaking of, you know, like for as much as Desi and I are big Reylo fans, like Reylo is kind of Stockholm syndrome in space. So, you know, it is a lot of things. In this case, here's my problem is Pocahontas is a great character in what I think is a terrible film. And whereas Jasmine is a great character in a great film, and I have to go with Jasmine because I just like Pocahontas just isn't a very good movie, and I don't, you know, I don't blame that so much on her. It's not her character. It's not a compelling, enjoyable film for me. So I'm gonna go with Jasmine. And also, like Jasmine, I was younger when Aladdin came out and much more sort of into, you know, the Disney golden age of films that were out at that time. So she is much closer to my heart. And with that, ladies, we have wrapped up our bracket. We've got some interesting matchups. So next week we're gonna have things. We're gonna have matchups that include Mary Poppins versus Belle, Minnie versus Moana. We've got Buttercup versus Padmé. Got let's see, and then Mulan versus Jasmine. There's another interesting one. So we've got some pretty good matchups for next time around, and hopefully we'll get through the rest of our contest, our March Madness bracket. But so correct me if I'm wrong, Ashley, but actually our next episode we're taking a break from the March Madness bracket, and we are talking about Red. We are talking about the Red scene change in Pirates of the Caribbean because it is.
But yeah, if we were going to do like a split episode, but I feel like that debate is going to take a full episode, so we should probably.
That debate will take a full episode, and the rest of March Madness will take a full episode. But we're doing it. I think we talked about doing it for the next episode because it's very close to the anniversary of when the ride was changed.
Yeah. Let me see if I can't. Because I had it written down. Yes, because it'll be almost the 4-year anniversary. It changed March 19th. So actually 4 years ago this coming Friday. Or no, my math is wrong. Saturday?
Yeah.
Saturday.
Yep.
Red will have turned or changed from the original auction scene to the hen scene that we currently have.
Oh, so Madeline in chat says, I thought you meant turning red, which would be a great episode. And maybe that.
Yeah. And we are talking about it Wednesday on Deep in the Plus.
And without, I know Deep in the Plus wants to do it, but I feel like it would also be an interesting movie for us to talk about because it's so female, like it's so heavily reliant on female relationships. And without spoiling, I think, anything too much, like you've got the main character is a young 13-year-old girl. So there's a lot of the movie like entirely rests on her relationship with her mother, her relationship with her three best girlfriends at school, and then her grandmother and aunts. So it's like it's like an almost entirely female centric film, and I think would make a good discussion for us to talk about from that perspective at some point down the road. So obviously Deep in the Plus is our Disney Plus movie show, and we'll let them do their review of it. But I think somewhere down the line, I would love to talk about it as well, because I think there's a lot there that we could touch on as, women
if you're
watching.
Free Wednesday, we're looking for a fourth.
Maybe. I'll see. I just watched it last night. I sat down last night and put it on because I was like, I've been hearing so much about it that I was like, oh, I've got to see this. I've got to see what all the buzz is about. So
I have
I definitely.
to watch it.
It's an interesting film, and like in the grand scheme of like some recent releases like Raya and Luca, I thought, you don't always know what to expect, because I think we've had some movies that have not really like held a ton of gravitas in the Disney animated film or Pixar animated film realm. I'm not going to say whether I think this one does or not, but it's, I went into it with lower expectations because of some of the films that have come out lately, and I was surprised by a lot of things, I would say.
That's encouraging.
It was definitely interesting, and I would definitely recommend watching it if you're a Disney and Pixar fan. So yeah, so we'll save that for down the road. But next episode on March 28th, we're going to talk about we're going to take a pause from March Madness and talk about the red scene change in Pirates of the Caribbean. And I think that'll be a good break because March Madness on WDW News Tonight starts this coming Thursday, March 17th. So you'll be able to go through the entire March Madness bracket. Desi and I will be around for some of that. And then once that wraps up on News Tonight, we'll come back and wrap up our princess bracket or our Disney female character bracket on this show.
Here we go.
So with that, and likely that it's going to be a long episode because, March Madness always runs long, as this episode has. But with that, I think we'll wrap up for the night. And I want to thank all of my illustrious panel, Ashley, Desi, Shannon. I think these were some really good conversations. It makes me excited for what's to come because I couldn't even tell you who I think is going to win this bracket, even though we've narrowed it down to 16 characters now. There's
Poppins.
A lot of Poppins for the win.
I'm looking at some of these that are coming up, and I have no idea how I'm going to vote.
Yeah,
same.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough. All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. Again, Deep in the Plus on Wednesday, right, Desi? Wednesday?
Yep.
Wednesday night.
Tuesday is now Disney Entertainment News Today.
Oh, that's right. Disney Entertainment News Today, which is our new show. All the new stuff that's coming up on Disney Plus and in other. I think it's broader than Disney Plus. I think it's all Disney Entertainment News, films, TV, all of that. So that's Tuesdays. Wednesday is Deep in the Plus. Thursday is News Tonight, which starts March Madness. The competition this year, if you don't know yet, is ride show scenes, which should be interesting. We've got things in there like the Hitchhiking Ghost from Haunted Mansion.
Ooh.
So it will be the Anubis scene from Great Movie Ride, I think, is in there. So a lot of really interesting, there's going to be a lot of interesting conversations because I think this is going to be tough to separate the show scene from the attraction. And again, like talking about how you feel about it, how nostalgic it is for you, how much you love it, how many cash registers it has, all of that's going to come up in I'm sure the debate. So, and then if you're a WIGS member, love our WIGS members who get extra content. The post-show WIGS tournament this year is Best Disney Restrooms. So that should be a fun one as well. So with that, I will stop talking and say goodnight, let y'all go to bed. And thanks, and see you again in 2 weeks.